Welcome back to my channel. My name is LaShawn and this is Lush Uncut. So one of the biggest stories out of the news this week is that of Mr. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, or better known as Maryland Man.
Supreme Court order and still no action. The federal government is under pressure to explain why a wrongfully deported Maryland man remains locked up in a prison in El Salvador.
Let's get to Maureen Ume in Northeast D.C. with more details for us. Mo?
That's right. This case has faced growing legal and diplomatic hurdles right now. What's happening is that the United States, the Trump administration, has said that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is alive, but that he is still in a maximum security prison in El Salvador. But they haven't said how or if they plan to bring him back here to the United States. This is despite a court ruling here by the Supreme Court last week that said they need to facilitate his return. Again, this case taking so many twists and turns. The 29-year-old Abrego Garcia is from Beltsville. That's where he lives. He's a Maryland man. He was mistakenly deported last month. It happened despite a 2019 court order that blocked his removal due to fears of gang violence in his home country, El Salvador. The Supreme Court has since ordered the federal government to facilitate his return, but in a weekend court filing, the Justice Department claims that that does not mean that U.S. officials have to intervene with El Salvador's government. Instead, they're arguing that they'll allow Garcia to re-enter if he manages to make it back on his own. International law experts say the court is not buying that.
Okay, so a couple things to know about this story. So this man did illegally enter this country. I think it was in 2012 that he did that. And in 2019, he was giving a right to stay order by a judge, which basically means that he is not going to be deported even though he's an illegal migrant. Mind you, his asylum claim was actually denied. So he is technically not supposed to be in this country at the end of the day. And there's substantial evidence that he is in fact a member of MS-13, which has been designated as a terrorist organization by the Trump administration. So however, he was not supposed to be deported. Apparently, it was a clerical error that led him to be sent to El Salvador. But he is an El Salvadorian citizen, so we really can't just go to El Salvador and say, hey, we really want your citizen back so we could properly deport him back to you. It doesn't make any sense. But of course, the Democrats are using this story to say Donald Trump bad. He's basically kidnapped this poor Maryland father, this very responsible citizen. This awesome man has been dragged to El Salvador illegally and unlawfully and without due process. And they're trying to drum up all of this hysteria in an attempt to make people feel as if the Trump administration plans on dragging even American citizens over to El Salvador to wither away in a penal colony. But it doesn't look like anybody is taking or at least listening to them for the most part. Anyways, this story really bubbled over later on this week when Maryland Senator Chris Van Holland decided to journey to El Salvador to rescue Mr. Garcia. Here is a video of him at the airport in the beginning of his rescue mission. Let's take a look.
I'm here at the airport. I'm about to board my flight for San Salvador. The goal of this mission is to let the Trump administration, to let the government of El Salvador know that we are going to keep fighting to bring Abrego Garcia home until he returns to his family. I hope to meet with representatives of the government. I hope to have the chance to actually see Kilmar and see what his condition is. But we are going to keep fighting because this is a miscarriage of justice.
Okay, enough of that. I just can't with these people. Ironically, El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele was in the White House this week, and when asked about Mr. Garcia, so whether or not he's going to have him return to the United States, I believe he said no. So I don't know why this man thought that he was going to go down to El Salvador and actually speak to this man when the literal president was like, yeah, he's going to stay where he's at. But anyway, points to make about this. There's so much, wrapped up in this whole hoopla. So here's the thing. Even if, right, this man was not given the due process that he deserves, and that's like a I think a legitimate claim for some people that was just like, hey, even if he's an illegal migrant, you can't just pick people up and throw them into other countries without giving them to due process. Do I agree with that? I don't know. I feel like if you're not supposed to be here, then you're not supposed to be here. But anyway, that is what a lot of people are saying. However, that is not a hill to die on at the end of the day. Most Americans do not care about suspected illegal gang members. So I do not know why Democrats are choosing to die on this hill. It's actually embarrassing. And it's crazy because I remember when there was a bunch of stories in the news about American citizens like Lake and Riley that were murdered by illegal migrants, and the Democrats could not give a hoot about what happened to those people. They could not care less about their family members. They didn't care. But you mean to tell me you have the energy to pick up your behind and get on a plane and go all the way to El Salvador to rally on behalf of this man? These people, I don't know if last year's election made some Democrats there's a word I want to use but I can't use because I'm on YouTube, just mentally incapacitated. But they just can't seem to read the room anymore. They are lacking all skills in regards to being able to pick up what the American public has been putting down for the last couple of months. This is not the hill to die on. And it's even more embarrassing because it shows just how out of touch they are with the general American public, that they think that this is a fight worth fighting. The fact that they're making this whole hoopla, they're calling him the Maryland man. They're saying that he's this dedicated father, and he might just be a dedicated dad. I don't know. But they are dying on a hill for this man, and it's gaining them no political capital. None at all. So why? I usually don't give advice to Democrats because I want them to lose forever. But honestly, they don't... I don't know why they can't seem to figure out how to get it together, because I feel like there's only two things, right? Two things that they need to do in order to kind of get themselves back to the place where they're actually respected to a decent level to the American public. Number one, they need to be delivered from Trump derangement syndrome. If the rape allegations and the 34 convictions did not turn America away from Donald Trump, nothing that a Democrat is going to say is going to change that, okay? America, after 8 years of y'all slandering this man nonstop, so you know what? That's the one that we want. Yep, we want the felon. Yep, we wanted the alleged rapist. Yeah, we wanted the Nazi, the Hitler man y'all talking about. Yeah, we wanted him to be our president. But yet y'all still think that, using these ridiculous stories to dog Donald Trump is going to make a difference? Give up the Trump derangement syndrome. It is not serving any of y'all. Americans, or a majority of Americans, do not have a problem with Donald Trump in the same way y'all do. At the end of the day, get it through your thick skulls, okay? So that's number one. Number two, they need to get away from the wokeness, because the only reason why this senator man here is going to take his raggedy behind down to El Salvador to rally on behalf of this man is because the woke ideologies that he subscribes to demands that he cares more about this alleged gang member than the American citizens that he have been elected to serve. They need to let this woke stuff go. It is not serving them in any way, shape, or form. But if the Democrats decide not to do any of this, if they decide to continue to die on these woke nonsensical hills, then by all means do it. Honestly, I don't care. It's just funny to watch at this point. And it's very entertaining, and they just keep giving, the conservative YouTubers content because y'all just can't give it up. And I feel like another thing they need to realize is that the only thing that is going to stop Donald Trump or make Americans change their mind on Donald Trump is Donald Trump himself, which means it would mean that his administration would fail. You know, things like a really bad economy or a war or something catastrophic has to happen to get people to say, you know what, maybe a second Trump term wasn't a good idea. But Democrats doing what they're doing is not gonna, you know, change anyone's mind on Donald Trump. But anyway, that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. There's something in the comment section, like, do all the things. I do apologize for the congested tone. These allergies here in Nashville are kicking my hiney, so I'm sorry that I sound like a frog. But anyways, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.